Hi, this is Ola, and you're listening to the Audiotool Underground podcast show.
Hi guys, and welcome to the Audiotool Underground podcast show. I'm your host, the Marquis. With me this month is a fantastic Neurofunk producer, definitely a pioneer on Audiotool within this genre, and definitely has a very unique sound in general with Neurofunk as well. Of course, it is CGMan. I hope I pronounced that correctly.
Yes, that's the right way.
Cool. I wasn't sure if it was going to be the German pronunciation for the letters or whether it be the English pronunciation, but
I always use the English pronunciation myself.
Cool. Any reason for that?
Yes, it's actually the name has it's the meaning. It actually has a meaning, and it's
All right.
It has nothing to do with audio. It's actually like CG computer graphics, man. Because I'm also very into computer graphics and designing stuff, and I used that name pretty much everywhere, and I used it for Audiotool as well. So yeah.
Oh, cool. Okay. Well, that's one of the questions I had, which is why the name. Out of the way. Cool. Right then, let's go straight into a question from the audience then. So, I'm afraid I don't know the Audiotool username from this, but it's Tomas Pinto asks, what are your favorite Neurofunk producers outside of Audiotool?
Well, I have lots of Neurofunk producers I really like, and the most obvious is Noisia, and also Calyx and TB. They both create pretty great sounds.
Okay.
They were the reason why I started listening to drum and bass in general. So I can name a specific track for why I started hearing drum and bass. And I just have me look at my music library. I can find something there. But, yes, of course, the guys from New Signal.
Right.
Bass and Misanthrope. Yeah, there's also some Spores, of course, a great producer. I don't really know the exact pronunciation, but I think it's Spore.
Right. Okay.
Let me have a look. Yes, everything. If you look up Noisia, and with everybody they collaborated and things they remixed.
Okay. Cool. So yeah, the next question then was from Daniel Burjoin. I hope I pronounced that right as well. Will you do more techno-oriented stuff, a bit like Cadmium Hotel, or will you stick to mainly doing Neurofunk?
Well, we created another track with this account. It's called Palladium Feast, I think.
All right.
The CGK account. So
Yeah.
we created another track. Maybe I create something for myself as well. I have some drafts which sound more techno-like, but yeah, I really like the challenge for creating neurofunk.
Yeah.
You know, it's really difficult to create a great neurofunk track, and I think I'm not very good at it. Even if you say that I am, but yeah, still a lot of things to improve, and I think I'm constantly improving. And
Oh yeah, definitely. Because I've heard, whilst your earlier tracks in the Neurofunk genre, I still really enjoy them. You can definitely hear a progression within your bass design, and it's also becoming more efficient as well. Because I've opened up a few drafts of more recent tracks, and there's less going on with the bass design than there was in the old tracks. Like you're using less splitters and less effects pedals,
yes,
but
yeah.
you're using more from the
Becoming for
the synth.
more lazy.
Well, not necessarily. You're just sort of finding a more efficient way of creating the bass sound,
yes,
I guess,
yes.
within the instrument itself, rather than having to use effects all the time.
That's the right way to say it, efficient.
Yeah. It's a more flattering term, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I like the challenge. I think techno can sound pretty cool, pretty fast.
Yeah.
And yeah, I listened to techno tracks a lot when I was younger, and so I have problems coming up with new ideas.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, because you've always got, when you create an idea, you're always thinking,
I heard
oh,
that
is that something I've
before,
already
yeah.
heard? Yeah. Yeah, I've got a few drafts like that as well, where I've sort of started making techno or house type stuff and then gone, oh, this sounds really good. And then I've heard a song later and it's gone, that's why it sounded good. I've just copied that track and not really realised. So sort of following on from that, I think it's Jeremy, but there's accents on the E, so I'm assuming it's more Jeremy Devesa. Has asked, will you be doing some more scrans again? Which obviously, for those who don't know, it's the very hard techno, gritty techno, isn't it? It's a bit more fast paced usually.
Yes.
Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So have you got any plans to make any more of that stuff?
Definitely, I want to create more trance tracks, especially if the community asks for that, because I really enjoy doing that. It's not like creating techno, like I said before. It's more I enjoy it because pretty much every trance track sounds a bit similar, so that's not the problem. It's more like creating the sounds that really shake the room.
Yeah.
And
yeah, because I suppose, like with everything, you've got to get the perfect kick drum.
Yeah.
And in trance, you've got to do some real interesting distortion type stuff to get that kick drum to really hit, but also resonate. And I imagine there's a lot of layering going on and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, you can rave to it.
Yeah.
That's important as well.
Yeah. It's got to be very much danceable. Whereas I suppose Neurofunk isn't, because of the funk element to it.
Yeah.
It's not like normal drum and bass where you've got the very straight, it's straight offbeat drum hits.
Yes.
So it's danceable. Whereas Neurofunk is, it's a bit like glitch hop. You never really know when the beats actually come in, so you can't really start dancing to it.
Yes.
Unless you know the track really well.
Especially in my tracks, it's very difficult to dance to. I know that.
Yeah.
I tried it myself and I failed. It's pretty difficult to feel it.
Yeah. I think that's that plus my bass design. Whenever I've tried creating Neurofunk, I can, I do pride myself on the way my drums are made, but I can never ever get them to be. I'm just too regimented, I think, with my drums. I can never get them to be an offbeat enough to really throw it, if that makes any sense. And it's something I really admire in your tracks, is the percussion and the drum hits just being so almost haphazard, but not. That's something I personally find is particularly interesting.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Right, so next question from the audience, before we move on to one of your tracks that you've chosen, is from Yaffi. You always know it's going to be a great question when Yaffi's written in. He's asked, he says, recently he bought some trousers and some fresh pants. He got them home, thought he'd try them on for size since he couldn't at the shop when he bought them because he had no pants on. You know, hygiene and that. Anyway, at the point of stepping into the new pants, he was overwhelmed by what can only be described as an epiphanic sweat that quite literally completely paralysed him. He was totally incapacitated for what seemed like hours. He realised that he always steps into pants with his left leg first, and he wonders just what would happen if he didn't. So, what he wants to know is, should he try using his right leg to step into pants first, or not? It's really important he gets an answer to this, because winter is on its way. Thanks.
Yeah, you have discovered new worlds, getting into trousers.
Yeah, that's a pretty good answer to a fairly ridiculous question. So yeah, right then. So your first track, I need to be more prepared.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
To where is it? Here it is. So your first track then is Hexagon.
Yes.
By Ole. It's a bit of drum and bass and he's got Jump Up, but he's not sure whether it is Jump Up or not. So why did you pick this track? And what is it about it made you sort of think, yeah, this has got to be on my list?
He did a great work with vocal samples, or with this vocal sample, in my opinion. And I like the hats very much. And he also put a pad in that fits pretty well. That I think that's pretty difficult to do a pad with this sort of music, and it still fits. And I also like the fact that it stays entertaining the whole time.
Yeah, because that's often quite hard to do with drum and bass, just because of how fast it is.
Yeah.
You've done, say, an 8-bar loop, and it's only really taken you it's only taken 20 seconds to listen to. You've then got to do something else, and then something else, and then something else to create that track to be a decent length as such. You know, if you want it to get to 4 or 5 minutes, there's a lot that you've got to do, and you've got to keep it interesting for the listener. Otherwise, it's just repetitive over and over.
Yes.
Much like with things like techno and whatnot. But because of the tempo, it's easier to do that in a way with techno, just because you've got a bit more time to make things flow. Whereas drum and bass, you got to do it quickly, and it's Yep.
Yeah, he's also a big fan of mine, I think. So that's
okay.
Thank you, Oli.
Right then, so this is Hexagon by Oli. Enjoy.
Soldiers, don't give yourselves to brutes. Men who despise you, enslave you, who regiment your lives, tell you what to do, what to think, or what to feel, who drill you, diet you, treat you like cattle, use you as cannon fodder. Don't give yourselves to these unnatural men, machine men with machine minds and machine hearts. You are not machines, you are not cattle, you are men. Treat you like cattle, use you as cannon fodder. Don't give yourselves to these unnatural men. despise you, enslave you, who regiment your lives, tell you what to do, what to think, or what to feel, who drill you, diet you, treat you like cattle, use you as cannon fodder. Don't give yourselves to these unnatural men, machine men with machine minds and machine hearts. You are not machines, you are not cattle, you are men.
Hi guys, welcome back to the Audiotool Underground podcast show with me, the Marquis, and my guest this month is CGMan. You were just listening to Hexagon by Ole. So next up then, one of my questions for you is, who are your biggest inspirations on and off Audiotool?
One of my first inspiration on Audiotool was I just forgot his name. I'm sorry. It's John.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I really like his tracks. I still like his tracks, and the first thing I wanted to be on Audiotool is to become like him, but that didn't really work. So I tried something different. And on Audiotool, I think every time I listen to a track, it's a bit of an inspiration.
Yeah.
I can't name certain artists.
Yeah.
So some of my followers and off Audiotool, not the people I follow. That's what I wanted to say. Off Audiotool, it's pretty much the same story. I listen to my favorite artists, especially Noisia is my number one inspiration. Not really in how they make tracks or what kind of melodies they put in, but more like how the bass sounds.
Yeah.
And maybe a bit the structure. I don't really listen to how tracks are structured. I think my tracks are pretty messed up because of this.
That's quite interesting, really, because I don't listen to Noisia as often as others do, but I have heard a few of their tracks, and quite recently, and whilst your bass sounds fairly similar, you do something very, very different with your bass, because there's kind of growls over a long time, a bit like you'd get in a standard Neurofunk track. It's long bass, whereas yours seems to be very choppy as well. Like you have, I can't even think of a way of describing it.
Yes, that's like.
But you've got the growl, and then it just sort of chops and stuff instead. Whereas theirs is very much more rolling, moving kind of bass sounds, if that makes sense.
Yep. I prefer it.
Yeah.
As I do it.
So.
Yeah, I prefer the choppier sounds.
Yeah. Where did you get the idea for creating it like that instead of doing what most Neurofunk seems to be?
Yeah, I just tried it and I liked it. I usually create a static bass sound and then add a beat, and for me it sounds the best if it's just short step like sounds.
Yeah. Because I opened up one of your more recent tracks, Survivor, I think it was, and I copied the bass out of it into a separate draft, so I could sort of rework it and try and do some things with it and stuff. And I was surprised how few notes there were in the note reel for the bass.
Mm-hmm.
Like you had, I think there was nothing for most of the first bar until like you've got say 4/16 left.
Mm-hmm.
So 1/4 of the bar left, and that's where you put the notes in. One of them was over 2/16, and the other two were then over 1/16, I think. And then the next one was slightly different. It was almost the same, but it was more tripleted, and without it actually being in the triplet section. But if you turn the triplets on, you could see that it was pretty much following the triplet pattern instead. And it was just blown away by how little bass was actually in your track, and yet that's what you think of when you think of your Neurofunk tracks, and there was so little actually going on with the bass. There was so much design gone into it, and then there was so little notes, and yet it's very much a less is more kind of attitude towards the bass, and it really worked.
Yeah, thank you.
And it was just amazing to see that. And other ones you've done are more notes, and I thought it was just fantastic how little there was.
This is really one of my approaches, the less is more approach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely working for you. Keep doing that. It's really working for you.
Yeah. Thank you. I don't like tracks that are full of everything just coming out of the speakers, like 50 layers of some things going on.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's my main problem is I try and fill the sound a lot. So I put layers and layers. I got a Neurofunk track that's in my drafts. It's not an Audiotool one though, but it was, I had 3 or 4 different bass sounds going on. Each one sounded fairly similar.
Yeah.
And 2 of them I layered over the top of each other to make the sound. And yet the as full as that sounds, like as many layers as there are and many different bass sounds there are and effects and whatever going on, when you listen to it, it still sounds like it's lacking something, even if there's a sub bass underneath as well. And
I know, I really know what you mean. I have that problem as well.
Yeah, it's just I can never work out what's missing. I can't work out whether it's high end or whether it's low end. So I put a sub bass in and go, well, it's better, but it's still not finished. I can never just. Yeah.
I think I found a solution, and it's like a pad sound, just very short.
All right.
Filling the gaps. I have a draft already that does this, and maybe I have to change the octave or something, but after that I can publish it and show you what I mean.
Oh, okay, cool.
It already sounds really, really great. I tried some new approaches and some tricks, and after that you can of course open it as always and look it up. It's already a pretty huge project. I think if I open the screenshot, it's 3 bass lines and lots of effects going on. Yeah.
When you say bass lines, are we talking about the 303, or are we talking about just like actual bass lines as in?
No, I mean actually the Heisenberg and some
Yeah.
effects.
I was going to say, if you've managed to make Neurofunk with a 303, wow. I've tried doing some drum and bass stuff with it, and it sounds kind of cool, but
it's definitely
it's not
on my to-do list to do something. Yeah, especially I think the 303 has an input, and
yes,
I think that's where the magic happens. I have to try that.
The input is more about the notes, so you can use.
Yeah, but
say,
I think it's already also a sound input.
I'm not sure.
I'm pretty sure.
Oh, okay. Yeah, cool. If it is, brilliant.
I'm starting Audiotool right now. Synths 303. So I just drag the Heisenberg and the 303 bassline in. Yes, I can connect them. Yep.
So that's just. Oh wow. Okay. I always thought it was just
No, it's not just a note input.
tool input.
No.
Oh.
Oh,
that's opened up more possibilities.
Yes.
Oh, hello.
Yeah.
Cool.
I think.
Oh, I'm playing with that later then.
Yeah. You can change the waveform in that way. I think.
Yeah.
The input waveform, not just sawtooth and square, but also whatever you prefer.
Yeah, a bit of formant, a bit of
I once
Similar.
Yes, I once did that with a sample, and it sounded great.
Yeah. Oh yeah, 'cause if you put a sample through it as well, that would work quite well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've not tried it with the sample before actually. I've done sample work through the Pulse a couple of times using the audio input channel, and that worked quite well. But yeah, I'll have to try that with E303 as well. Yeah. Cool. There you go. Learn something new every day. So my next question for you then is, do you, when you're making a track, do you sit down and work solidly on it, or do you sort of flip back and forth between different drafts, or do you take some time over a couple of days to create the track, or is it just like a sit down 10 hours straight, track done?
It's usually I sit down and I forget the rest of the world and just try to finish the track. But usually I can't finish it in one day, so I have to stop in the evening or something, have some food, and open it up. After a couple of days, I usually take a break, and then open it up like 3 or 4 days after I've worked a long time on it.
Yeah.
And I usually, the main loop is what I work on the one day, and the next day I work on the structure to copy it and create variations. But sometimes I just open a lot of drafts I have and change some little things, but don't really work on them.
Yeah. So do you come to, when you sit down to start a track, do you come with an idea already in your head, or
no.
do you sit down and start just playing around, see what comes out?
Yes, I always create music with playing around with things.
Oh, cool.
I use a couple of techniques to make it sound better, but of course I play around. And I only have one draft, which is like a unrealized idea. No.
Yeah.
Is it realized? I don't know. Okay, an idea I put into sound.
Yeah. So, do you normally start then with creating a beat, or a bass line, or a bass sound, or?
I tried different approaches, and I think the best one is if I use a beat sample, and then create a bass line to that, and then create my own beat and delete the beat sample altogether.
Yes. Yeah, because I suppose then you don't have to worry too much about creating the beat. You just right, there's the beat, so that I know where the bass is fitting. Create the bass. Yeah, that makes. Yeah, I think I've done that once or twice. I just have a tendency to just get stuck in the drums. Like I start with drums every time, just making a kick sound nice, get a snare that sounds good with that, and then sometimes I add hats in there. Other times I start working on bass lines and whatnot for a variety of different things. Bro, I'm starting to move into glitch, and man, it's so time consuming creating bass lines and sounds for it, just because you have to create so many different sounds. Well, I feel that I have to create different sounds to make the bass line work and not use the same one. So I've got to have like 15 or 20 different like bass sounds or whatever, or glitch sounds to make the bass line work and flow and hop around a bit. And it takes so much time when all I want to do is just get the track down and have an idea for things. It's hard to come up with an idea when you've got to make all these different sounds. So doing that, creating one sound first, using the beat first and then starting on it does help. Right then, so we'll go on to your next chosen track. It is Panopticon by Envisage or Envisage. So why has this made it into your list of tracks?
It sounds really great. There's a lot of detail, and I really like the mixing. It sounds really professional. And it's so great. I really can imagine that in a movie because there's so many emotions going on for me. I don't know if you listen to it, but yeah, it's really like a I can imagine so many movie scenes to that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just sounds
Okay.
very professional.
Cool. I've just put it on my list of things to listen to. It's just gone into the album of things I need to listen to.
Yeah.
Just from reading a couple of the comments and stuff and looking at the waveform, it looks quite interesting. So it's definitely on my list now. I'll be listening to that as soon as we finish recording this. Right then, so this is Panopticon by Envisage. Hi guys, welcome to the Audiotool Underground podcast show with me, the Marquis, and my guest this month is CGMan. So we'll dive straight back in with another question. This one's from Potasmic, who has asked, do you make music elsewhere outside of Audiotool, and when did you start making music?
I don't remember the year when I started creating music, but I remember what happened. There was on my aunt's computer, there was a demo of the Magic's Music Maker, and I played around with that, and I really enjoyed it. That's when I first started creating music, I'm pretty sure about that. Or if you want to count playing around with keyboards as well.
Yeah.
I played around with a little keyboard as I was a kid, but not like creating music on the computer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Outside of Audiotool, not really. I really stick to Audiotool now.
Have you ever dabbled with anything outside of Audiotool?
What?
Have you done any? You said not really. So does that mean you've done anything outside of Audiotool, or
just on my computer was some? Yeah, I didn't publish anything yet.
Okay. So what other program are you using then? Do you?
I tried using Reason, but it's very hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. I tried the same approaches as in Audiotool, but I don't really come up with great things like that. It's really messy. I think it's
right.
because of the complexity of the effects, and yeah, as I said, I still have this Magic's Music Maker thing to play around with.
I've never heard of Magic's Music Maker. I'll have to have a look at that.
It's really like a program for beginners.
Yeah.
Once you know the tricks, you can create pretty interesting things with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so sometimes if you want to have multiple effects, you have to export and import it multiple times, because you can just add 4 effects or so at a time.
Yeah.
It's not really the best program, but it's just with what I play around with if I want to create simple samples or save an idea. Yeah.
Okay. So Crypta has asked, he says it's not a question but a request. He'd like you to make more of Hit the Desk.
Mm-hmm.
There's not one I'm familiar with, actually, that one.
Yeah, it's pretty old. And it's 2 years ago.
Oh, wow, okay.
3 years. Audiotool says 3 years ago.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's before I came to Audiotool then.
Yeah.
That'd be why I haven't. So what kind of track is it then? Is it a techno thing, or is it a drum and bass?
I think it's
Neurofunk.
A dance techno with this super soft synth and a kick drum.
Oh, cool. Right.
Okay,
I found it.
I write that down.
I found it. Oh yeah, you've just written in the comment in your little description of it just a pulverizer and a beat.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Right then. So my next question for you then is, you have quite a sort of sporadic publishing period, I guess, of tracks on Audiotool. So you seem to go through spates of when you publish. Like there's a good few tracks from last year, and then you've got one track from 9 months. Then there's 2, 3, 4 from 8 months ago. Then you got a 7 months old one, then you've got nothing then until 3 weeks ago when you published a track, and then 2 weeks ago. So is there a reason that you take such long breaks away from it and then come back and have a spree, or?
Yes. Yes. I am studying what is called informatics, computer science, and
Right.
it's I don't usually use Audiotool during the semester, but there's a long break between 2 semesters, and that's where I usually start creating tracks in Audiotool.
Oh, okay.
So
Cool.
that's the reason why there's a 6-month gap and then 2 tracks or 3.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So, where's the next question? Here we go. Keps has asked, how the hell did you come up with the idea for the bass line in Motorcycle? He said he's looked inside. It's like nothing he's ever seen anyone do on Audiotool.
Yeah, I actually did that multiple times. I used I think the how do I pronounce it? Machinist. Machinist.
Machinist,
To play some,
I'm not sure.
to play bass samples and then use effects like I use on the Heisenberg to change the effects. And yeah, I use the Machinist, whatever it is called, to change the sounds I play to, like the pitch and cutoff frequency. And I did that in, I think, a track called Bug Invasion. I did this as well. And
which one?
it's called Bug Invasion. I think I did that with well, and Crackle is also one track I did that. Motorcycle. I opened it up because I don't remember how I did that exactly. Right.
Okay. So next question for you then. That's it for the questions from the audience and the users. So is there a secret basically to your quality of sound? So is there something you do? I've opened up a few of your tracks and you never seem to do the same thing in each one. Everything seems to be very different. So how do you get the quality of sound that you seem to get? You get it very loud. It doesn't seem to be massively compressed because it really fills a spectrum. There's definitely some movement in the I can't think of the word now, but yeah, you haven't compressed it too much. It's not like you've done anything like that, and yet it's loud, but you can hear everything crystal clear through the entire track. Is there a secret to it?
That's a difficult question. I think I use multiple things to improve the sound. And one of the things I really recommend is using like a multi-band compression approach. But like I did in Resonance Sector, if you look it up, you can see I split the complete track in 3 parts. Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And then use equalizers to separate the highs and the mids and the low frequencies, and then use a compressor on each individually, and then mix them back together. This usually makes things sound better. What else? I think it's just all about the right volume you choose for each layer.
Yeah. I suppose it could also be something to do with your less is more approach as well, because if you're not using
Less is more is definitely something to remember.
because if you're not using lots of bass, it means you're not drowning out your kick drum quite so much. So your kick's going to cut through more frequently, and I suppose that with what you've said about getting the levels of the mix right.
I recommend using lots of equalizers.
Yeah.
You can see it. I use them quite frequently.
Yes, at least one on everything.
Yes. What else?
I'm pretty sure I've seen it. One of yours has got a synth, I think, that you'd split the signal of the synth sound. I think it was one of the basses, and you'd split it so you could get left and right panning, so the bass filled the headphone and the speakers, and then I think you equalized each one slightly differently as well, so that it was so you had the sound. Different parts of the sound were being panned differently. Instead of having the whole thing panned left and right, you had, I just want that mid bit there panned to the right. I want just that mid bit there to the left. And see, for me, my computer can't handle stuff like that. I have to use my brother's computer to be able to open one of your tracks. It won't even get part way to opening it. It gets to a certain point and then just says, no, that's it. Can't go any further. Sorry, and just let alone hitting play.
Pretty happy about my rig, yes. I think it's mostly in the equalizers and the right way of compressing things. I actually have some tips for you if you want them.
Oh yeah, go for it.
When using equalizers, you can, of course, increase the volume of certain frequencies and decrease them. And I usually use this cue. I don't know what it actually is. The frequency range of a parametric equalizer. How many frequencies I use around the chosen frequency. So if I decrease the volume of certain frequencies, I use a small frequency range, like a high Q value. What is this Q? Do you know that?
I'm not actually sure what the Q stands for. I just know that like what you said there, it's the bandwidth. It's the amount of frequencies that we are adjusting.
Yeah, and when increasing the volume of certain frequencies, I use a lower value, so a wider range of frequencies.
Right.
If I want to know which frequencies to increase or decrease, I use the opposite thing. So I increase the volume and the Q value to have like really increase just a small part of the sound very high, so I can slowly change the frequency to find out which frequency is too loud, and then decrease the volume exactly this frequency to make it sound balanced. Actually all I do is trying to balancing the sound to being able to increase the volume to a really high level without damaging your ears.
Yeah, that last technique I've used a couple of times. You're using the getting a small bandwidth and then
searching for the right frequency.
Yeah, finding the frequency you don't want to be in there. There's sometimes you can find little bits of noise that you don't like, and you don't know they're there until you accentuate them, and then once you get rid of it, it just makes it a bit cleaner.
Yeah. I really like the fact that you can change the dry and wet thing in the graphical equalizer, so I can compare what I've done and what it was like before.
Yeah, and you can do it gradually as well, which I quite like. Whereas with the parametric EQ, you can still do it by turning it on and off,
Yeah.
but you've only got the hard and fast.
Yeah, I don't use the parametric equalizer anymore because it's not important anymore. The graphic equalizer can do the same things as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And almost easier because you can see.
Yeah, you can see and you
see where it's cutting rather than.
It's like two of these pedals in one device.
Yeah. Right. So next question for you is, do you have any aspirations or goals within music, or is music always going to be a hobby? Because obviously you said you're very into graphics type stuff. So is that where you're aiming for your career to go, with music just being a bit of fun, bit of spare time, messing around, something to keep yourself occupied and happy?
Yes, I just want to keep it a hobby. Maybe I want to sell them one day, but don't make a living from it.
Yeah.
I have other plans. As I said, I study informatics, and one of my things I want to make a living from is creating computer games and applications. So yeah, music is just a hobby.
Okay, cool. So we will move on to your next track then. This one is Ayo by Offbeat Ninja. So again, is there anything that made this particular track stand out to you?
No, it's actually not this particular track. It's just Offbeat Ninja in general. I like pretty much every of his tracks, and I just wanted to put in one of his tracks. So, yeah.
Okay, cool. So this is Offbeat Ninja with Ayo.
Audiotool und
Hi guys, and welcome back to the Audiotool Underground podcast show with me, the Marquis. You just listened to Ayo by Offbeat Ninja, and we are now back with CGMan. So, following on from what we were saying earlier about music being a hobby, maybe you're hoping to sell something later on, possibly, if if ever you feel like it's that way inclined. How did it feel being picked up by the Audiotool record company, A Records, to have your album Uberdruck, is that right? Put on their records, basically.
It felt really great. It was so amazing to know that there are so many people outside over the world and enjoying my music, and they want to have an album. Yeah, and they also try to master them a little bit to improve them as well.
Yeah.
It felt really great. I can't really describe that.
No,
like
it's one of those things, I guess.
Becoming more famous. You.
I suppose it's one of those things you've got to have it happen to you before you can actually understand that feeling of joy, I suppose. And yeah,
it's a very specific kind of joy.
Yeah,
it's not like
it's just
being liked by friends. It's something different.
Yeah, it's having people you don't know.
Yeah.
Who are knowing that they are enjoying your music somewhere.
Yes.
And yeah, I've definitely hit. Yeah, that album definitely brought me to a few of your tracks that were older and that I hadn't heard before, because I tend not to delve too far back into the artist's music. However, it's a lot easier now in the way that Audiotool don't have pages as such. You can just scroll through, and I can get right to the bottom of the list really quickly now. And it definitely had me go, oh, that's a nice track. Where's that on here? And go back and find it. But some of my favourites of yours are definitely on there as well, I think. I can't remember their names off the top of my head, but they're in there.
It's actually pronounced Überdruck, and it's
right.
It's like, it means overpressure.
Oh, right.
In German.
Yeah, it's quite a fitting.
Yeah.
Yeah, quite a fitting title. I've listened to it so many times on Spotify and stuff, and
thank you.
Yeah.
But as I said, for me it's not that good anymore. I think I listen to them too often.
Yeah. Count Gap, yeah, that's on there, and that was one of the first. I think that was the first Neurofunk track I ever heard. I think it was Count Gap.
Yeah.
That, and there was a track by Clicky. Do you remember him? He stopped making music on there now. I think one of his tracks had a similar industrial vibe to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, both of them just blew me away when it came to that.
Thanks.
I'm fanboying a little bit too much, I think, throughout this interview, so I try and tone that down a little bit. So yeah, next question for you then is there an area of music production that you dread having to do? Like, you finish making the music and you have to do the mix, or is it enjoying the mix and not really liking making the sound or anything like that?
What? Can you repeat that, please?
Is there an area of music production as such that you dislike at all?
Yes. It's I'm pretty good at creating beats and basses, and also mixing them together and improving that mix. But I really hate pretty much everything else, like adding little details, adding effects, and the structure. I don't really like the structure of my tracks, so I always think that I'm doing something wrong when rearranging things.
Right.
there's also a certain point where I'm too afraid of messing things up, so I'm not really creative anymore. You know?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you start creating something and you think, oh, I wonder if this would work, and then you sort of go, oh, but I like it as it is. If I do that, it might ruin it, and I don't know if I'll get it back.
Yeah.
Ooh, I'll leave it as it is,
Yeah.
and then
That's the reason why I want Audiotool to be able to save multiple versions.
yeah,
At least like 5 versions or something, so I can get back really wide steps.
yeah. Have you tried doing like bouncing it down into samples and then rearranging the sample and cutting that up?
No, I want people to know what I did, and I don't like bouncing it into samples, so because you don't really know what how the sample is made.
Yeah,
But I want people to see and be able to look into the draft and see what it's made, what it's
yeah. No, what I mean is though,
works.
what I mean is though that if you bounce it into the sample
Mhm.
and then edit the sample so that it's the new sound, and then if you like it, you then edit the original bass line, say, or drum beat or pattern or whatever. You then edit that, or is it more not necessarily the bass line type stuff you're worried about editing, but more the because I suppose if it was, you just create a new MIDI track and a note reel, but. No, I've answered my own question there. it's. I'm assuming it's more of a sound design type thing that you're not experimenting as much throughout the track as you would have done previously.
I don't use the bounce
No.
function, no method. Yeah.
I've already asked that question.
I also like going back to the synthesizer altogether.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it even right? Wait. I have to look it up. What did I just say? Altogether insgesamt. Yeah. I also like creating a bass sound and adding effects and then changing the synthesizer settings or even the waveforms to get completely different sounds.
Yeah.
That's how I experiment.
Yeah. I think I've seen one of your tracks where one of your automations
Was the waveform.
Yeah.
I really like that.
Yeah, I quite liked that. It was different. I'd never seen that kind of thing before. I wasn't even sure you could do that.
Yeah.
And then you did it, and I thought, there we go, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not something I would have thought to have done. It's quite out of the box, and yeah.
Yep. Yeah, sometimes I change the waveform and I see multiple waveforms where I like the sound. Sometimes some adjustments have to be made. Adjust.
Adjustments.
Adjustments, thank you.
Sorry?
Adjustment, yes. Oh god. Yeah.
Cool. So is there something you would like to learn about production, or an area in particular that you wish to improve upon within your music?
Yes, definitely the overall structure of a track. I don't really know how to create a build up and a drop and then play the whole thing. I really have to learn something about that. And how to keep the listener interested. And I also have to learn to hear if it's good or bad better.
So with that last bit, then I take it, are you hearing everything as being good, publishing it, and then going, oh, that's not any good, or are you hearing it as being bad most of the time, and then everybody else is going, no, that's really good.
Yeah, usually while creating it, I like it, and after publishing it, I don't like it really anymore.
That tends to be something a lot of producers, well, and a lot of artists in general seem to have, is, you know, they get sick of what they've heard. If that makes sense. So you'll be making the track over and over, and after a while you just sort of get sick of it.
Yeah.
Just because you've heard the same loop over and over.
Yeah, and you also just hear mistakes and things that can be improved.
Yeah.
Or you think that don't sound quite right.
Do you often go back into the track and edit and then republish them, or do you tend to steer clear of doing that once you've published?
I used to do that, but I gave up. I think it's better to leave them as they are after publishing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. We'll go into another track now, and then we'll come back.
Only sometimes there are things that really bugging me, but then I come back and change it.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, if there's something glaringly obvious that you just cannot stand, then I'm the same. I rarely come back in anymore. You know, people will comment saying, "Oh, I try doing this," or "I try that idea," and I go, "Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I'll do that on the next edit." And then I never really go back and edit. You know, I plan to. I really want to, because you know what they've said is good, and I want to put it into place. And I just never ever open it back up. I just want to do something else now. I've had enough of that sound, and even now I'm trying to work on an album, and I've made stuff, and I've got these new production techniques that I want to go back and put into place on old tracks. I can just never bring myself to reopen them and put them in. One track in particular, because it's a glitch hop with an algorithm in it, which means every time you play it, there's a different glitch. You know, it stops at different times every single time, and I like it as it is in the finished version. But if I edit it and re-record it, it will sound different. So it's a bit of a nightmare. But right then. So we'll go into next question. Next song. Sorry. So this next track is "Distortions of the World" by Sumad.
Yeah.
So again, is there anything in particular that drew you to this track?
Yeah, it's completely different. There are lots of details in there. I really enjoy all these little details and automations, slight changes, and also the atmosphere. Yeah. I enjoy.
So, yeah.
Also keeps entertaining the whole time for me personally. I like that, and it also sounds pretty clear, at least on my speakers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting, because obviously you've just said that the bit you don't like doing about the mix is all the little details, the automations, the movement and stuff, and yet that's the bit you most appreciate in this track. Is it because of the fact that you just like doing it so much that when you hear it in other tracks, you're kind of thinking, wow, that's a lot of commitment, a lot of time spent doing that? Or is it just generally in this track they're really, really good?
It's actually both. It's, of course, I appreciate that. And it usually also makes things sound better.
Yeah. Okay, so this is "Distortions of the World" by Sumad. Hi guys, and welcome back to the Audiotool Underground podcast show with me, the Marquis. My guest this month is CGMan, and we just heard Distortions of the World by Sumad. So next then for you is a question about collaboration. Is there an artist you would like to collaborate with? That can be on and off Audiotool, I guess.
Yeah, I already sent Aaron a request, and we started something.
Which Aaron? By Aaron Schaefer or Aaron as in Aaron?
It's Aaron in Audiotool. It's the link is user my grandpa's school. My grandpa's school. Maybe I can send it to you.
I've got it here. Hang on. Grandpa. Right. Yes, that's just Aaron, as in Aaron. It's obviously difficult when there are two different Aarons on Audiotool. Even more funny when they collaborated together and you had Aaron and Aaron.
Yes. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, he's got some interesting sounds. He did a drum and bass sound that was really well made a while ago. It was a Neurofunk type sound that was really, really well made a while ago. That I quite liked and had a little play with, and I think he made it for something else. I was like, oh no, you got to do something drum and bassy with it, and he did something drum and bassy with it later on, which was quite nice.
Yeah, I think we can create pretty cool things together.
Yeah,
and
that'd be cool.
Yeah, he really wants to collaborate with me.
Yeah, I look forward to hearing that. So yeah, collaboration-wise, then you've done a few collaborations in the past. One of which that I was really looking forward to, but then didn't seem to really go anywhere, was the Astrum.
With Astrum, yes.
Yeah, collaboration.
I still have that draft. Yes.
Yeah,
I have to finish that.
I think he played it when he was at. I don't know whether he put any finishing touches to it or whether he played it as it was, but I'm pretty sure he played it at the Audiotool conference as part of his live set. If that was what it was good. So I really hope you guys do finish that. Obviously, he doesn't do a lot on Audiotool anymore, but
yeah, I think I have. As I said, I think I wrote that somewhere. I think I have to finish that alone.
Yeah.
But yeah, we already have an intro and a drop. All these things I don't like to do. So yeah, I think this will work pretty well. I can finish that. Yeah, I forgot about it, to be honest.
Yeah. So next then, some questions about some sound design for you then.
Yes, please.
Basically, how do you start when you've written your bass line down?
Yeah.
Or that's the first question really. Do you start making the sound before you start making the bass line, or do you make the bass line before the sound?
You mean the sound of the synthesizer?
Yeah, the bass sound itself, the neuro sound. Do you start making the sound before you write the bass line itself, or do you start putting the notes in and then create the sound afterwards?
You mean the notes and the sound design?
Yeah.
I saw a tutorial once, and I think the best approach is to really use one note playing a whole bar and just loop that bar so you have a constant sound, and then adjust the sound, then creating the sound so you constantly hear what you're doing, and create a melody or whatever it is. It's usually just playing notes afterwards.
Yeah. Okay. In which case then, so how do you actually start with the sound design for that synth? It's
pretty straightforward. have something like step by step. Of course, the first thing I do is drag the Heisenberg in. I really like that synthesizer.
Yeah.
Then I choose 2 different waveforms and tune one up an octave and detune it a little. This is a pretty great approach, but still playing the first one, and then let the second oscillator modulate the first one with the modulation matrix.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then you maybe let the LFO control the filter cutoff frequency. This is also a great start. And then, yeah, you're actually ready to add effects.
Okay. So waveforms then, how do you choose which 2 waveforms you use to start with for that then?
You can choose pretty much, you can almost choose any waveform. There are some that sound really horrible, but usually they sound pretty decent. It depends on what you want. If you want more like with many, I think, harmonic overtones, that's right. Then the sawtooth waves, or something that looks similar to the sawtooth waves or have similar parts in it, will have more melodic overtones. And if you use like I think the square or Carl Friedrich Gauss or Isaac Newton, these 3 have more like a square wave tone to them. And then it really depends on how much you modulate the phase on the modulation matrix, and how the semitone settings are. Just try it out. It usually sounds pretty good. There's no real trick behind it for me personally. Maybe subconscious, but not something I can really describe.
Okay. So so the next step then, you said you're ready to start adding some effects to it.
Yeah.
Which effect do you normally just pull out straight away?
Usually I use the tube pedal and I really like to use an equalizer before and after the tube pedal, so I can control which frequencies I want to distort and which should not be distorted. Especially the lower frequencies, I like decreasing the volume of the lower frequencies to not have them distorted, and increase them afterwards to still have like subs.
Yeah.
Or the other way around, to really make like flattering sound and decrease the lower frequency so that it doesn't destroy your speakers. You can do that multiple times in different places, and I really recommend you to just find out what each effect pedal does to your sound, so you can choose which one to use in the right situation. You have you have a sound, and then I have like these 10 options what to do to make it sound better. Yeah, of course the tube pedal. Then there's the chorus pedal. Maybe already have seen that. How I use this, I use a splitter.
Yeah.
And then I merge them again. But now I don't like the merger. I prefer the mini mixer now, because it has this solo buttons and I can adjust the volume better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because
I quite like using the mini mixer as well for the panning.
Yeah.
So I can pan, if I split it 3 ways, I've got one for the center, one for the left, one for the right.
Mhm.
So I can have one doing, the left doing slightly different distortion, the right doing something slightly different as well.
Yeah, you can also add equalizers to every channel or some other effects. Actually, everything that you can imagine, you can put just one of these 3 or 4 inputs you have there. It also has this I think effect Zend,
Yeah.
but I don't use this, just for mixing. Maybe I should try this as well. Yeah, as I said, the chorus, I usually use the chorus effect with a splitter and some kind of mixer. So I still have the clearness or the detail of the original sound, because the chorus effect makes it all like messed up and smooth. Maybe you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I still have this crunchy sound, but also make it more full, like filled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, and of course equalizers, as I said, increase the volume with wider frequency ranges and decrease them with thin or small frequency bandwidth. Yeah, I think bandwidth is a better description for that. Then I use the phaser pedal.
Yeah.
And usually I use low to no feedback and a slow rate for the phaser.
Yeah.
And I usually use the phaser if I have a bass sound that already sounds pretty good, but I think there's some little thing missing, something like this. Yeah. It adds this little something that it's usually missing for me.
Well, when you add it, you mean it just does a little extra that...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes it sound even more professional.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a big fan of using the phaser on Neurofunk basses.
Yeah. But not too much, because it already can sound pretty silly.
Yeah. If you put it on too much, it just travels way too much around in your head, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you want it to be hard hitting and not moving too much, but you want a little bit of movement, which is, it's really good to have that depth and feedback quite low. And like you say, having a slow rate as well can be quite good. I think I've automated the rate once or twice so that it speeds up. So you've got the usual kind of growling slow thing, and then occasionally it just speeds up a little bit, which is it just adds a little something interesting as you're listening.
I never tried that.
However, I wasn't very good at it though, so it worked once or twice, and then I've not been able to recreate that thing since, if that makes any sense. So, yeah, you might have better luck with it than I did.
Yeah.
Right then, we shall move on to your next chosen track. So this is Saxabar by John. You've already said that John was
a really great artist.
Yeah, one of your it was the first drum and bass on Audiotool you'd listened to it. Was that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, is there anything particular about this track that made this one stand out as the choice to have of John's?
Yes, the melody. I love the melody and also the vocals. And the beat, it's all perfect.
Yeah.
Thanks.
He does have a very crisp style, doesn't he? He's very clear, very crystal sound. Cool. So this is Saxabar by John.
It's been far too long. It's been far too long. It's been far too long. It's been far too long.
Hi guys, and welcome to the Audiotool Underground podcast show with me, the Marquis. My guest this month is CGMan. You just listened to Saxabar by John, and we're going to delve straight back into sound design questions. I believe you have still got a few effects to talk us through.
Yes, we talked about
with your
effect pedals.
with your bass. So so far we've discussed the tube, chorus, and the phaser. Obviously, the chorus being used with a splitter and then a mini mixer to bring it all back in and adjusting the levels and stuff. So what's next for you?
The slow pedal.
Yeah.
You can use the slow pedal for filter cutoff and different effects. Like, of course, a growl effect with you use automations on the timeline and use like triangle waves that usually get you this growl sound. You can use the low pass filter or the mid pass with a higher bandwidth. Then yeah, it sounds pretty cool with that. Like these stab sounds with a sawtooth wave going from high frequencies to low frequencies. Maybe you know what I mean.
Yeah. So a downwards sort.
Yeah. If you play around with it, you can discover pretty fast what possibilities you have, and you can also use the slow pedal with a mid cut filter and changing the frequency slightly, maybe a bit of resonance to make the sound move a bit more. I did that with my current draft as well, and yeah, maybe you listen to Deep Blue Doggos by Moisia.
No, I don't think so.
I think they used that there as well with a pretty fast change in the frequencies. It sounds more like something's talking to you. I don't really can describe that. Like it's really coming out of some organic thing.
Yeah.
I also recommend doing that. It doesn't have to be a very complicated automation, just some changes slightly. Maybe slow and fast both work. It just changes what it feels like. You can also use, of course, the parametric equalizer or the graphical equalizer for this effect. Yeah. Yeah, the slope pedal, of course, for filter modulations in general. I usually use that just one time or 2 times if I use a mid-cut filter, but not more than once. So
that's interesting because you said that within the Heisenberg itself, you use the filter and then the LFO to modulate the filter.
yeah.
So you're doing a second or even third filter modulation as well.
No. I either use the slope pedal or within the Heisenberg, but not both.
Oh right, okay. I was good. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Well, maybe, but just a slight sine wave LFO, so that I can have more moving bass lines. But use the slope pedal for the things that you can actually hear pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Sometimes I use the stereo imager to, of course, control the stereo image. Usually, the chorus and a phaser effect make the bass line really wide, and I try to decrease the stereo wideness. Is that right? Wideness?
Yeah. Width.
Width.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's all right.
To make it more mono. But some people like that, some don't, and yeah, it's not that easy. And I think if you use the stereo imager to make something more coming out from the center of your speakers, the mixdown sound different to what you hear in the app.
Right. Oh yeah, I remember you had a track a while ago where you were listening to it in the app, and then when you'd published it, you said it doesn't sound like what you'd had in the app because of that stereo thing, and you went back in and did 3 or 4 edits on the stereo, just on the stereo imaging, I think.
Yeah.
I can't remember which one it was.
I think it's live.
Yeah, it might. Yeah, it was either that or Survival, or it was around that kind of time.
Yeah, I have that problem multiple times, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it was live. Yeah, you've published I think 5 or 6 6 different versions before you were happy with it.
Yeah, it still has problems, but I gave up. Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine it being quite frustrating.
Yeah.
When doing that kind of stuff. Huh. I've never thought of using. Of trying to make it more mono, because I've obviously used the phaser, used a little bit of chorus before to try and widen the Neurofunk basses. I tend not to do it with basses in general, unless I want a particularly growly kind of thing. But then it's always lacking something, and it could be that I need it to be more mono than I'm making it. So I might start using the stereo enhancer to decrease the stereo instead.
Just leave out the low frequencies altogether and just use a mono sub bass. Because I really recommend you to never use high stereo width for low frequencies.
Yeah.
They all should come really from the middle, the center.
Yeah. Yeah, so definitely splitting the sounds using an EQ and then, or using 2 separate synths, I guess. You can either do the bass, the sub with one synth and do the highs with another.
Yeah, it sounds really
that kind of thing.
More clear if you just use sub bass for the low frequencies and use everything else for the mids. to lower
Yeah.
lower mids. Yeah.
Cool. So is there anything else you do with the bass, or?
Yeah, I like to use the reverb pedal as well.
Oh, okay.
But reverb in general, because it sounds usually too dry if you don't use reverb. Just a bit. Sometimes I forget to use this, and yeah, like in what was it called? Survival. I
Yeah.
think this could use some reverb, just a bit, just short reverbs. What I like to do, and not just for the bass line, but also for drums, split the signal as for the chorus, and then use the reverb effect on one side, and use a compressor pedal, and use the sidechain input, and use the dry signal for the sidechain, and then mix this back together. So the dry signal compresses the reverb effect. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Maybe I should show you a picture or something, or you understand me.
Yeah.
Really?
I think I get you. So compressing the
reverb.
yeah, compress the reverb so it's not quite as I can never think of what's the it's not texture. Pretty sure it begins with a T. Yeah, so basically it's not so airy. You've squashed the signal of the reverb, so it's not. I can't think of the word.
Usually, if you use the reverb and play a loud kick or something, the reverb gets louder as well. But if you use the sidechain compression, and use the dry signal as an input for the sidechain input, the reverb comes in later.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I get you. Yeah.
That's not. Yeah.
So, yeah, drums then. With drum and bass in particular, there's a very large amount of bass going on, and you can often lose the kick in particular, but you can. The snare itself is a whole different ball game. So, is there any processing or anything in particular you're looking for when you're choosing your drum samples, or anything like that?
I look for different kinds of snares and kick drums to mix together. So I like mixing an electro and acoustic kick together.
Right. Yeah.
And to make the kick, to like emphasize that kick, to make it more coming through everything, I recommend to increase the frequencies, the lower mids, about 70 to 150 hertz or something.
Yeah.
So not where the sub bass is, but right over that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just the very top end of the sub bass part of it, with most of just the low end thud of the kick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that solves the problem pretty much.
Do you do anything then with the bass in terms of EQing to try and make the kick stand out through more? And do you try and cut out the signal of where the kick is going to be pushing through, or do you let side chain compression do that for you, or anything like that?
I think I usually don't think too much about that. I just try around with the kick pitch a bit to where it sounds the best, so that the frequencies don't
Yeah.
eliminate each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I just play around with the kick pitch, I think, to make them fit together. And the volume, of course.
Yeah. So so the next question for you with again regards to the drums is snares. Finding you say you like to layer your kicks. Do you layer your snares as well?
Yes, I layer snares even more than I layer kicks. In general, I usually pitch snares up. Yeah, it's not that easy to explain. There are many snare samples that are, for me personally, are too long. They have a long reverb, and I usually use the sample player Machinist to it has this start and end knob. And so I usually set the end to like 50% or lower to really cut just the beginning of the snare sampler, so that it's really just a dry signal without any reverb. I opened a draft, my current draft, and I can play 3 snares that I just... Yes, I of course look for punchy and snappy snares when looking for samples. Yeah, I like using a compressor and EQing, of course.
So when you're finding the snares to layer, are you looking for snares that sound similar to the stuff you get in like an Amen break, or are you looking for more acoustic snares, or are you looking for more electronic type snares?
No, I'm really looking for acoustic snares to create how the snare sounds like, and then an electric snare like this. What was it, 808 or 909?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This this noisy snare with this ringing sound to create that punch in the snare.
Okay.
Yeah. And of course I have to use a compressor, usually with a low threshold. Is it threshold?
Yeah.
And low attack and release, high ratio, and usually the peak mode.
You go with a low attack?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, because I find, well, this could just be because the snares I use are that way, but I find to get a punchy one, I need a fairly high attack, just so that the initial part of the snare comes through, and then the rest of it I compress out afterwards, if that makes sense.
This click,
So I suppose what I'm doing is what you're doing with cutting off the end. So if when you turn the end knob down on the mashy, so that you have 50% of the snare, so you only have that beginning part.
Yeah.
I'm leaving that whole thing in, and then compressing just the half of it back out with the compressor. So I may as well just cut the snare down.
Yeah. Yeah. There are samples like.
Yeah.
They're really a bit too long. I want this.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, do you try and go for more tonal snares than white noisy type stuff? So it's more of a
Yes, both.
yeah,
Both.
bit of both, and then layer them, and then yeah.
Adjusting the pitch so that they fit together.
Yes, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, pitch is obviously very important with drum and bass, isn't it? It's, if it doesn't fit, it's a horrible clash.
Yeah, I never thought that it's that hard, but yes, you're right.
Yeah, it's something I really struggle with because I'm practically tone deaf. So I can hear when it's really wrong, but when it starts getting close to being right, I can't tell anymore. Like it gets there's like so there's a range of notes that I can hear as being close to each other.
Yes.
So so I've got like a 3 or 4 semitone range where I think it's right, and really it should only be the one semitone range.
Yes.
So it's
I think you should pause for like 2 hours and then listen to this. Just
yeah.
You feel it better, and I think you instantly know, yes, that's right, or no, there has to be something to change.
Do you try and pitch all the snares to a single point for each track in general? So say you're trying to drum and bass is often written in the key of G or F, in that kind of area. Do you tend to write things in try and pitch your snare to a G or an F
No.
before you've even done anything, or do you just pitch it so that it sounds right with the kick and then the bass?
I not to a particular note.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't have something like I always have to be in that certain area.
Yeah, so there's no formula as
No.
such. It's just what feels right, what sounds right
Yes.
on that track. Cool. So yeah, hi-hats then. There's not always a lot of hi-hats in your tracks.
Yes.
I've noticed that you do use them, but you don't use them as much as you hear in a lot of other drum and bass. Is there a reason for that, or do you just prefer having more percussive elements, like in ubongo or ubongo? There's more bongos and conga drums and stuff like that. It's a bit more of a jungle feel to it without the hi-hats than there is necessarily in other tracks.
Yes, I think if you use a lot of hi-hats, it feels faster, and I don't really like that. I don't want, no, I like that, but I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So I try to leave hi-hats out as much as possible, and maybe in one bar 8, so every like 1/8. What is it?
Yeah, 1/8.
1/8. Yeah, mainly, and just some ghost notes in between for the hats.
Yeah.
Only in parts where I want it to be faster, I use 16th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I suppose it also takes away some of the funk element, I suppose, isn't it? Because hi-hats are often quite straight sounding in drum and bass. The beat is offbeat as such, but then the hats themselves tend to be very, it's quite straight with a bit of movement in there, but it's not quite your style of neurofunk, I guess, which is very offbeat, syncopated.
Yes.
You add hi-hats in and it just straightens everything out quite radically, even if you've got it on a shuffle, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's yes, you explain it pretty well.
Cool. Well, unless you have anything in particular you want to add,
hats.
Then
yeah, maybe just short hats with a low volume are better than really loud hats.
Yeah.
And it's also pretty good to have the snare or the kick like decrease the volume of them, like with sidechain compression.
As in decrease the hi-hats by sidechain compression
Yes.
them to the snare and the kick?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So that
Especially with the snare, that would allow the snare to really punch through
Yes,
a bit
come
more, I
through,
guess,
yeah.
wouldn't it?
punch through.
Hmm.
I just open a draft and I have the snare and the heads running through the same compressor, and I think that makes everything sound a bit better.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well, unless you've got anything you particularly want to add in general,
think-
we will
Yes, there are
begin to finish up, I guess.
lots of approaches, of course.
Yeah. Well, yeah. There's always
I
a
al-
variety of different.
Yeah, I prefer short heads over longer ones.
Yeah.
Again, cutting it or using the pitch to make them faster. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, pitching them's always something I do occasionally is just you can redistribute the pitch of the hat, make them fit a bit more with the snare and the kick, but you can but like you say, it does make them a bit shorter if you pitch them up a bit.
Yeah. But I like that.
Yeah. Makes them a bit more tinny, and sometimes depending on the sample, it can make them a bit more metallic as well. Whereas if you down pitch them, it can make them give you that kind of industrial feel.
Yes.
So you get a more of a clanging metal work.
It
kind
usually
of
doesn't
sound.
fit that well. If you pitch a head down, you just leave them as they are or pitch them up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you very much for taking the time to chat to me. It's been a pleasure having you on.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So what we shall do then is we will finish this episode of the podcast with one of your own tracks. Obviously, with discussion with you, we've gone with Empire by yourself. I personally quite like this track. It definitely puts some funk into Neurofunk here. So yeah, again, thank you very much for coming on. Keep producing, 'cause it's great. And I look forward to the coming collaboration with Aaron.
I'm pretty sure I won't stop.
Good. Yeah, great. So this is Empire by CGMan. extra part of the Audiotool Underground podcast was just to have a little chat again, because we had a chat after the end of the podcast, and myself and CGMan came up with a few extra things to have a chat about. Well, for CGMan to have a chat about. So it was why don't you
Yes. Like what we just talked about, the slow beat to create a drum and bass track. It's really the drum and bass beat is about 170 to 175 beats per minute, and if you create a beat at half that speed, it's really slow, like hip hop type of beat. And if you create bass lanes around that and effects, and then you create a beat that is the actual drum and bass speed, it still has this great feeling to it and this great groove, but you also have this fast and powerful drum and bass beat. This is one of the things we just talked about. And other things I have to mention, I want to create a tutorial, some short tutorials.
Do you want to give us a little info
Yeah.
on what the tutorials may be about?
Of course, a tutorial about the Heisenberg synthesizer and what you can add to improve the sound even more, how to create certain bassline characteristics, or how to create a punchy snare and kick and make them fit together. I come up with new ideas myself, how to improve my beats and how to create even better beats by experimenting.
Cool.
Yeah. Or about certain effect pedals, how to compress things, what my approach is, how to use the compressor. I have a certain technique that I always use to set up the compressor the right way. About that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Cool. That's yes.
Like
I said just now, is Heisenberg tutorial in particular is something that we lack on Audiotool. I've done one. I think Infusion's done one, but there aren't many out there, especially for specific sounds and bass sounds. So having something like this from yourself would be a great asset to the community, I think. So that would be that, and obviously all the rest as well. Compression is something that everybody makes jokes about compression and whatnot, but it's still something that we have to do. It's still something that we need to do a lot of the time, and therefore knowing how to do it right for one thing would be quite good. So it's always nice to see how other people do things, just so you can get a new idea, a new perspective on style, I guess.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes, my techniques are also pretty fast to do. So it's not like something you have to do for 2 hours to get it right. It's it's not the best workflow.
If something takes a long time and you find it kind of tedious, it becomes irritating and it puts you off doing it again. Whereas if it's quick, easy, done, then Do you ever just coming off from that, do you ever make templates for yourself and then work from a template? So say
Yes, I now created a pretty big template that has a lot of things in it. 2 empty Heisenbergs and a lot of this 16-channel mixer to create a structure. And I think 4 machinist. I still don't know how to pronounce that, for the kick, for the snare, for the heads, and for the effects. just for the beat. Then have a mixer for every of these, and then have a mixer for this beat, and then have a mixer for all beats, and then mix that into the final mixer, which is the Centroid mixer. And of course this
Yeah.
multi-band compression setup. Yeah, just the setup. It's not really
Yeah.
just the devices, not the settings. Yeah, so I don't have to drag all this stuff
Yeah,
again.
it's already there. You
if
just got
I
to start fiddling
start
with
a new
the
track.
knobs, basically. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
and putting notes
Cool.
and samples in.
So yeah, I for one, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing some of this. So hopefully you'll get some time soon to put some of these ideas down, and we'll see these relatively soon, or not, depending on how your work schedule comes in
Mhm.
with your uni course and whatever. But yeah, good luck to you. Was there anything else you wanted to add?
Yes, you don't be lazy when creating music. No, not like me. It really helps if you what is like, how do you pronounce it?
Enthusiastic.
Enthusiastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, about something. It really helps to be better and create better things. And phew. Don't worry. Try out different things. Don't be
Yeah.
afraid of messing things up, as we are.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, this can help as well. I think there's an interview with Noisia. It's called
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah,
in the studio
quite a
with
good one,
Noisia, I think. Yeah, they say that as well. They export things that cost them like multiple hours to do, and then they treat these samples like shit
Yeah.
to improve their music, to come up with new ideas, and don't get
Yeah.
stuck on little details.
Yeah, it's definitely something I've started
Yes.
doing a little bit more, is creating multiple versions of stuff so that I can edit that and then have something to go back to.
Yes, me too. I copy the whole thing, and then I just use my
Yeah.
mouse and drag things around and mess it up, and use the parts I really like and repeat them, change them.
Yeah, definitely.
This helps as well.
Cool. So yeah, thank you very much for that. And once again, this has been the Audiotool Underground podcast show with me, the Marquis, and my guest, CGMan. Thank you very much.
This is Isaac, and you're listening to the Audiotool Underground podcast show.